I woke up a few weeks ago and I was surprised at what I was feeling. Found myself anxious. I found myself hurried. I found myself exhausted. Found myself a little bit overwhelmed. And the challenging part was I was on my third day of vacation. And I really was on vacation. Like I was really unplugged. It wasn't like obviously I work at the church. It wasn't like something crazy happened here. I didn't have any of our team members calling me or texting me. Yet I found myself surprisingly anxious, hurried, with nowhere to go. And I kind of just sat there for a second thinking, this isn't good. I should be on my third day vacation. Can anybody relate? I don't think it takes much to get there. But I found myself there, and maybe you felt this before, but can we just throw up a few things of possibilities? But have you ever just felt like you're in a place of being exhausted? Yeah. And I don't mean that you feel exhausted at times. I mean, you're finding yourself like defining this season or week or month as an exhausting week. And you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever found yourself not just stressed for a moment, because there's moments that happen like that, but I mean, you feel like you're starting to live in a place of just being stressed, right? Hurried, running on empty, easily irritated. Can anybody relate with any of this? Maybe I'm in the wrong church today. But I think it's a good question for us to ask is there a better way? Like, is there a better way? Can you look to your neighbor, the one you like more than the other one, and ask them if there's a better way? To say, is there a better way? Is there a better way? You can turn your Bibles to John chapter 14. We're going to go there in just a second, and really it's going to be the launching point of this series that we're launching today called A Better Way. A Better Way. And I want to give some credit where credit's due, but after that moment, we came back from vacation, and I re-picked up this book by John Mark Comer. We'll put it up on the screen, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I just want to give a shout out to John Mark Comer, and I also want to give a shout out to Craig Rochelle, because lifechurch.tv has actually, we borrowed, or they said we could have their graphics for this series. I just want to give honor where honor is due, and grateful for churches that distribute that stuff for free. But I'm going to be quoting some things from him today, and if you're looking for a read, if this strikes anything with you today, this could be a great book. It will challenge you for sure. In that book, he talks about that in mental health realm, there's a modern term that's on the rise, and it's this term: hurry sickness. Hurry sickness. And what we're finding now with 2 to 3 decades of social media is that people are having a behavior pattern characterized by continual rushing and anxiousness. Like it never stops. Like we never shut down. It's never going away. John Ortberg said this in a great book. I know I'm throwing out a bunch of books here. Hope that's all right with you today. But it's The Life You've Always Wanted. And this was actually written in the early 2000s. Here's what he said, even back then. For many of us, the great danger is not that we will renounce our faith. It is that we will become so distracted and rushed and preoccupied that we will settle for a mediocre version of it. We will just skim our lives instead of actually living them. Now, I know I'm being more vulnerable today, and I'll share a little bit more at the end of today's message, but my wife and I we are on a journey, and I just got to tell you right now, I don't have all this figured out. All right? Like, I'm not up here by any means of the word expert. Clearly, I'm on my third day vacation. I was having a tough time unplugging, all right? So But my wife, we were even talking this week, when we got married, somebody gave us this report from like USA Today, and it was the top 10 most stressful jobs. And guess who the top 2 were? My wife's a pharmacist. That was one of the top 10. And then pastor was one of the top 10. I'm like, awesome. So we are entering into 2 of the, not the hardest jobs, but supposedly from this report, the 2 most stressful jobs, right? And so, and even this week, I was out of town all week, and my wife, full-time, our 2 kids, all that stuff. And she said, I just feel like I'm on like a hermit wheel. Like I'm just going, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no slowing down. Parents, you're not leaving me dry up here, right? Come on, you know what I'm talking about? Is there a better way? The good news I have today is that the disciples also at times were troubled. They were worried. They were anxious. And Jesus has something to say about this. And has something not only to say to them, but to us today about the way. John chapter 14, verse 1, if you're there, the disciples are troubled. And they had a reason to be, because Jesus just had told them that one of them is going to be a traitor. That they all would end up denying him, and that he was going to leave them. So they're troubled. And here's what Jesus says to their troubled heart. He says, first of all, do not let your hearts be troubled. Now, let me also caveat this. He's talking to believers. So if you're not a follower of Jesus today, I'm so glad that you're here. And welcome home. We're glad that you're here today, but technically you're off the hook with what Jesus is saying here. But if we are followers of Jesus who have made the decision to follow him, then guess what? We have to pay attention to what he's doing. And I would argue that we get to pay attention to what he's saying here. But to be clear, it's not like he's talking to people that are outside of God, and then he's telling them that they're all troubled. He's talking to believers, all right? Say, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, right? Believe also in me. For my Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, what I've told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place, for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. Now, I don't know about you, I'm so grateful for Thomas. Like, Thomas gives me some hope. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not afraid to ask the question that everybody else is thinking. Right away, he's like, Lord, we don't know where in the world we're going. I mean, have you ever felt that way? Come on, like I don't know what I'm doing, honestly, right? Even when people come to you and they're like, man, you're such a great parent. Let's be honest. You don't know what you're doing. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I mean, you may have a clue, but we're all figuring this thing out, aren't we? And he says, Lord, we don't know where we're going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus answered, I am the way, I'm the truth, and the life. And the goal is our Father. But there's no way we get to the Father except through him. Everybody just say, there's a better way. Jesus isn't just the truth, and he's not just the life. He's also the way. And that challenges me. That word way in the Greek is hodos, which would be better translated road. That you come to an intersection, you have choices that you can make, and he's the road. He's the best road to go down, in which then you walk and you journey down this road. So Jesus isn't just truth and a precept to figure out. It's not just theological. This whole thing, this whole context of our ecclesiology, of our church, it's not just about theology and precepts. It's pointing to the Father who is pointing to the Son. It is Jesus. He is the prize. His presence is what we're after. And the beautiful thing that I have and that we have together is that Jesus is not just inviting us to heaven, but he's inviting us to a better way on earth. There's a way out from our modern hodgepodge of hurried, distracted, unfocused rhythms of life. And so here we are, and there's a better way. How many of y'all know that the way matters? How many of y'all want to make a lot of money? Okay, it's not bad, all right? Yes, come on, girl. My wife raising her hand. Let's go, come on. How many of y'all know the way you make the money matters? Because if you make money the wrong way, you end up in prison. You know what I'm saying? It don't go well for you, all right? Like you cheat on your taxes for long enough, they're gonna find out. You're gonna have a problem. So the way matters. How many of y'all have kids? Parents in the room? Yeah. I don't know about you, I say this on a regular. Like every day, at some point, one of my 2 children will come to me and ask me for something, and they do it the wrong way. So real quick, I'm like, Go right, just walk right back out the door, close the door, open back, knock on the door, we'll open up the door, and let's try that again. And I'm not against you eating. It's okay, we're allowed to eat in our home, but you ain't asking me that way. Come on. How many of y'all are married? I don't even have to say anything about the way, do I, there, right? I don't even say nothing. Right? You could tell, I'm not even going to go there. You already got it. I'm just going to move on. But Jesus isn't just the way to heaven. He's a better life now. Here's like what this whole series is really on right here. This is what you have to wrestle through is that if we don't watch it, we can look to Jesus for life and for truth, but look to others for the way. And then there's a disconnect because then we come in here and we're looking for theological truth, but then we're looking to the best self-help book on how we manage time. Come on. And so we come to Jesus for salvation and we come to Jesus for life, but then our boss and whatever job that we're trying to get to and how they do the job and how they get to that job and how they made it there, all of a sudden that becomes our way. And there's a disconnect between what Jesus is calling us to do and what the world is showing us to do. So I guess this is how business is done in the 21st century. So I guess this is how I'm supposed to do it. And at that point, I'm saying I'm not following the way of Jesus, who I've confessed as my Savior and my Lord. I'm following the way of something else. I guess this is how families are supposed to behave. You go out to Disney and you're like, well, I'm doing better than them. You go to your school PTA meeting and you're like, wow, those kids are crazy. My kids must be doing all right, right? Everyone else is on that much media. So I guess we're supposed to do the same. Can I just stop? And next week, we're going to get into this. You do not want to miss it. And I'll talk about it in a second. Technology is moving faster than our ability to ethic it. Right? I mean, before we knew it, Facebook, Twitter, we have had no time to even process the ethic behind all of this. I just talked to a private school. They are eliminating all technology from their middle school and high school. And all the teenagers hated that statement. And I'm going to prep you right now, like you should invite friends to next week if this rings a bell at all. But teenagers, you do not want your parents to come next week. I'm just telling you right now. Like you're not going to want to, you're going to want to figure out something else for your parents to do than to be in here next week, because we are going to talk about media. And once again, I'm not, all right, I'm going to keep moving on. Let me give you another quote here. And this is a little heavy, but I wanted to bring it up. And this is from the Modern Times. This was actually written in 2005, which is crazy. So stay with me, all right? Put your heads on. It may be the case that Christians are assimilating to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload, which leads to God becoming more marginalized in Christians' lives, which leads to a deteriorating relationship with God, which leads to Christians becoming even more vulnerable to adopting secular assumptions about how to live, which leads to more conformity to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload, and the cycle begins again and again. What is he saying here? Some of the challenges that the church has in standing up for what's true is that we are so rushed, we're not even slowing down enough to ethic anything. And not only the church, but you and I have to wrestle this for our own family and our own lives. And I don't know about y'all, but I make bad decisions when I'm exhausted. You make poor choices when you're exhausted. And listen, I'm not talking about having a tough week. I'm not talking about, you get what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying you're not going to have a stressful day, or that sometimes you work overtime, or sometimes the water heater goes out at 2:30 in the morning and it's on Christmas Eve and you have 14 people at your house the next day. Or like me, I had a wedding party at my home and then my septic tank stops working and I had to tell everybody they had to pee outside. I mean, you can't control all, you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about like there's moments where things get crazy. I'm talking about when you get into that cycle and all of a sudden you're somebody you don't even want to be. All of a sudden it's a year or two and you're quick with people and you're rushed and you're hurried and your phone is telling you your screen time is up 300%. But you're getting used to it. And listen, I'm right there with you. Like I don't want to act like the hero at any of this. Like all I'm saying is it's a challenge for us today, but this is how we do it. This is how the world works. Push, strive, go, 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 win, 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 fight, fight, fight. You know. Proverbs 14:12 says this, there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. That's scary. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 20 says, but by his death, that's Jesus opened a new and life-giving way through the curtain to the most holy place. And since we have a great high priest who rules over God's house, let us go right. Here's talk about rest for your soul. It's right here. Presence of God. And then we're coming to him with not hurried, not rushed, but sincere hearts. Come on, there is a better way. Look to your neighbor, say, there is a better way. Jesus not only invites us to heaven, but a better way. If you could flip over to Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, it says this. Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. And here's what Jesus wants to do in your life. He says, I will give you what? Rest. Take my yoke upon you. Can we just stop there just for a second? A yoke, if we can put that next picture up. A yoke is a tool that's used for two animals plowing a field. And so you see the wooden piece that's there. That's the tool. And here's what would happen is that you would have an established, mature animal that would have a yoke. And then you being the younger animal, you would yoke yourself to the established, mature animal, and that animal would teach you how to plow the field. You know that there's a mission field that you and I are called to. We're not just members of a local church. We are missionaries that are sent out with a purpose. And Jesus is saying, even other times, he says, the harvest is ready, but the workers are few. Could there be more workers if we would figure out how to not all burn out in our Christian journey? And so there's this tool that he says to use. And notice what he says. He says, we go back to that verse. He says, take my yoke and put it on you. He didn't say, I'll jump into your yoke and I'll jump into your pace and I'll start following you and your rhythms as you're being swayed by modern culture and the expectations of your boss and everybody else. He says, take my yoke upon you. And then look, and learn from me. For I am gentle and I'm humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. You know, your soul matters. Your soul matters. For my yoke is what? Fácil in Spanish. It's easy. And my burden is light. If you find yourself going weeks or months and you're not light, I would challenge you to think about your walk with Jesus. I'm not talking about there aren't moments, and I'll unpack them in just a second. But this is the invitation that Jesus is bringing to us today. Not just an invitation to heaven, but a way out from the hamster wheel of modern life. You know, you might be like, well, but Jesus wasn't a single mom with 2 kids. Jesus didn't have my boss. Jesus does not have my kids. Jesus didn't have to pay off student loans. Jesus didn't have these. You know, agreed. That is true. He is not a single mom with 2 kids. Just to be clear theologically. But I think he had a pretty big assignment. He had to fulfill quite a few prophecies. He, sinless life thing, that was kind of big. I mean, he ended up sweating blood. I've never sweat blood, by the way. Never done it. And listen, here's what we're going to do today. I don't have all the answers. I would ask you, can we go on a journey the next few weeks? Like, don't miss the next few weeks. You know, some things can't just be wrapped up in a bow. You know, that, like, I don't think that's how everything works. And we are at the end of this service going to open it up for a time of prayer. I'm serious. Don't miss the next few weeks. Because Jesus, he wasn't hurried. You never see in the Bible where it says Jesus ran. He walked. He spent time with the Father, like a lot of time with the Father. In fact, oh man, I can't even go there. I'm not going to go there. But his 40 days in the wilderness was right before he started his ministry. And it was silence and solitude. And that's a whole nother take on that text. You just got to ask yourself, if Jesus was me today in my modern day culture, what would he do? Where would he be? What would he do? So there I am in conclusion. I'm on the beach, 3rd day of vacation, and I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling hurried. And I don't know about you, but I'm grateful today that Jesus not only offers a way to heaven, but he offers me a way out as I sat there on the beach, unable to disconnect. Let me give you a little bit more of the backstory of what led to that beach moment. So in 2017, my wife and I have 2 kids, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I decided to go get my doctorate. That's crazy. We had 2 kids under 4, and church, full tilt. I decided to go get my doctorate. Here's what I said. It's just going to be a season. So if you've ever walked through that type of academic rigor, every night, I still had a full-time job here. Every night I'm working. Any moment I would get at vacation time, all my vacations was pumping out papers, working on stuff. And then I'm supposed to have, I don't know if you know, but Sunday's not a day off for the pastors. This is a work day for us. So Friday is my day off that I tried to stay to. And so I would work almost the whole day on Friday. I'm pumping out papers. And I just told myself that it's a season. It's a season. So 2017, I graduated 2020, and I graduated 2 months after the world shut down with COVID. And I don't know if you know, but our church ended up for the next 6 to 12 months after COVID hit, we handed out over 1 million pounds of food to our community. Can we thank God for that? We became a distribution center, and I thought to myself, so I virtually walked to get my doctorate. I did it on a TV. It was kind of silly. I'm like, just dumb, whatever. And then COVID hit, and I'm thinking, okay, it's just going to be a season. Like, we're going to get through this. and all that stuff. And then all the social justice stuff hit, and that was just going to be a season. And then my father-in-law gets diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. And then my wife ends up with this TMJ thing that was really challenging. We're still walking through, and that's 2022. And then I don't want to get morbid here today, but my father-in-law ends up dying of cancer in our home that we kept him for over a year, and that was 2022. And so what started in 2017 as a season, all of a sudden I'm 6.5 years on the other side of it, and now I'm sitting at the beach and I don't know how to shut down. I don't know if this relates to anybody. I was not sure whether I should share this or not. I'm not trying to make some, and some of y'all have been in this season for 20 years. I don't even want to make it act like it's easy, like woe is me. All I'm saying is that what started as a season, I knew better, and all of a sudden it getting here. And I'm not saying I never had time off, and I'm not saying that I'm in some crazy place. All I know is that was a red flag for me, that I've got to reorient myself. Barna just did a study that 42% of pastors right now are debating quitting. 1 out of 2 are debating quitting. I'm not debating quitting, to be clear. None of our pastors are debating quitting. I'm not gonna paint that. All I'm saying is it's a real deal. And I see pastors, myself included, where I can look to Jesus as the truth, I can look to him as the life, and then I can look to Peter Drucker or whoever else, whatever leadership person you want to look up to, and go, yeah, that's the goal. And last time I checked, Jesus has a better way. It's a better way. Would you stand to your feet all across this place? And here's what I want to do. I want to challenge you with some stuff today, all right? So here's the homework from Dr. Glenn, all right? There is a 7-day reading plan on YouVersion that I'm going to challenge everyone in the room to do today, all right? And it's off this series. I want to thank Life Church again. It's off this series. They created this. And you can, if you take out your phones, everybody, you have permission to pull your phones out. You're like, am I allowed to touch my phone ever again? I'm not sure. No, it's a tool. We'll talk about it. Anyway, I'll just give you a second. And we'll have this on social media later as well if you don't get it. But this is a reading plan that you can sign up for later. Online, we'll get you that link. So let's do this together, yeah? Let's go on a journey. It's not long. It's not a big devo. You can do it. Second thing is this, is join us for 7 days of prayer and fasting. It's not this week. It's actually the 21st to the 27th. I just want you to prepare yourself now. Be here. And I would love to see you come every night, but let me challenge you to be here more than you're not, maybe. Just try to, when was the last time you just got on your knees in God's house and just sought the Lord? No hinges, just come in here and pray. Come on, you know it's a good thing for your soul, for your heart. And so we as a church, we give you that opportunity. And so be a part of that, all right? Third thing is this, don't miss next week. Whatever you got to change, don't miss next week. Like I said, teenagers, you're not going to want to probably be here or have your parents here. But we are going to talk about this, and we're going to take it another layer. And so you just don't miss next week. And here's the fourth thing I want to challenge you with. Let's be present right now. So be present right now. Now that you have your phones, let's put our phones down. I don't see anybody with their phones, but let's put all that down. Your kids are fine. And I preached within my time here today. And can we just take a moment? Let's just be here. So would you maybe just bow your heads and close your eyes? Nothing spiritual. Maybe even the house lights, can we just turn them down for a second? I'm just gonna give you the next 60 seconds and try to shut some things down. Let go of your work. Parents, we got school tomorrow. We can deal with that in like 20 minutes. God wants to speak to you. Can we slow down enough to listen? Keep your eyes closed today. I just want to speak this verse over your life today. So Jesus says to you, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light.